If you watch elite badminton, you see a sport where the margins of error are measured in millimeters. Every player on the court possesses blistering reflexes and flawless technique. They can all jump, dive, and return a shuttlecock traveling at over 400 kilometers per hour. When physical parity is absolute, the human body is no longer the deciding factor. The actual match takes place entirely inside the athletes' heads. Look and see this happen when a high-stakes game reaches a 19-19 tie. Players experience an anomaly called winning line fever. At the exact moment they need to close out the game, their bodies betray them. The player holding the advantage suddenly realizes what they have to lose. Their muscles stiffen involuntarily, their mind panics. Meanwhile, the player at a disadvantage often plays with absolute freedom because the pressure of expectations has already evaporated. Indian badminton star Lakshya Sen survives these moments by doing something radical. He doesn't just try to ignore the pressure. He actively re-engineers his own brain on the court using highly specific mental frameworks. Success at this level depends on a player's ability to maintain a continuous, deliberate state of psychological engineering. Before a player ever reaches a final, they have to survive the sheer intimidation of stepping onto the court. Young athletes often freeze when they face older, physically dominant international opponents. Sen confronted this barrier during his early training camps in Indonesia at age 12. He watched foreign players train for 8 hours straight and realized an obvious but necessary truth. They use the exact same biological tools: 2 hands, 2 legs, 1 racket, and an identical court. To weaponize that realization, an athlete has to cultivate a very specific, quiet arrogance. When Sen walks out to play the world number 1, he carries an absolute internal belief that the person across the net is nothing special and completely beatable. Neutralizing an opponent's aura serves as the entry fee for the professional circuit, a mandatory baseline before the first serve is even hit. But the opponent isn't the only variable. In massive arenas, athletes face something called istora fever. They play in high-humidity stadiums packed with thousands of screaming fans, creating a deafening wall of sound designed to overwhelm their senses. This diagram illustrates the physical consequence of those arenas. The intense heat of a packed stadium forces massive air conditioning units to run at maximum capacity. This creates invisible wind drift across the court, altering the shuttlecock's flight trajectory and turning a perfect shot into an out-of-bounds error. Sen counteracts this chaos by hijacking his own physiology. During his warm-up, he deliberately pushes his body until his heart rate hits a target zone of 140 to 150 beats per minute. He manufactures the exact physical stress of the environment before the match even begins. Between intense rallies, he deploys a strict psychological counter-tactic. He executes a 5-second inhale and a 5-second exhale. This pattern acts as a neurological mute button, blocking out the screaming crowd and stadium noise within a fraction of a second. By artificially locking down his internal physiology, Sen builds the only reliable defense against a chaotic, uncontrollable external environment. Even with those defenses, the anxiety of winning line fever can still break a player. Sen faced this reality against Shi Yuqi, a historically difficult opponent who had repeatedly defeated him, building a massive mental block. To shatter that losing streak, Sen's mental coach introduced a radical intervention borrowed from military history, the Napoleon strategy. Instead of visualizing a triumphant victory, Sen spent days visualizing himself losing the match in every possible way. He imagined his shots missing, his opponent scoring, and the match slipping away. By preemptively living through every version of defeat, the brain exhausts its capacity for panic. When the score hits 20-all, the dread of losing has already been spent. Total acceptance of defeat provides the mental clearance needed to reach a genuine flow state. This mental machinery faced its ultimate test when Sen reached the semifinals of the Paris 2024 Olympics. Becoming the first Indian male badminton player to reach that stage carried massive historic weight. But that milestone immediately crashed into the devastating reality of losing the bronze medal match. The immediate psychological collapse was severe. Sen locked himself away in his room in the Olympic Village, refusing food, paralyzed by the looping thoughts of what he could have done differently. The long-term aftermath was even worse. He lost his flow state entirely. When he returned to the professional circuit, a frantic desperation to protect his global ranking points completely hijacked his mind. That desperation caused his winning line fever to mutate into career-wide anxiety. He began suffering a brutal string of first-round tournament exits, overthinking every single point. To survive this, Sen required a hard psychological reset. He made a deliberate, calculated decision. He was willing to lose his next 10 tournaments if that's what it took to eliminate his desperation and find his pure love for the game again. The elite mindset functions as a system for dismantling fear and systematically clearing the mental slate after a catastrophic loss.